I have a plan. I'll be a comedian.
That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
Hey everybody, welcome to this edition of Telemazing. Today we're going to be talking about the 3-view of Crashing on HBO. Got Melissa McCarthy.
Yeah!
Melissa Slaughter along with Josephina Garcia. And today we're going to be talking about Crashing, a new show on HBO. So starting off, when I told you guys the show that we were going to be watching, what were your initial thoughts?
I knew nothing about it, and I googled it, and it said Judd Apatow, who I know who that is, and then it said Pete Holmes, and I was like, I have no idea who that is. Let's see what happens.
I knew that it was on Subway ads, and I knew Pete Holmes was in it, so I wasn't sure how I felt about Pete Holmes beforehand. I don't care for his podcast. I like some of his sketches, so I was curious.
The premise of the show, was it believable? Were you guys down with it? Was it just a little bit too on the nose? Like, what was your thoughts on the premise itself?
I liked it. I don't know a lot about comedy, so it was an interesting insight into the whole comedy world. Mm-hmm. I think at first I had a really hard time liking Pete Holmes' character at first. Mm-hmm. The whole man-child thing threw me off. But then I started to feel for him and the premise and the whole comedy world. As it got built up, I started to like it more.
The premise of just him crashing and burning and then having to rise up from that is a premise that I don't care for anymore when it involves someone who's a man-child. I think it's overdone, and I don't think Pete Holmes had anything interesting to add to it. I decided at the end of this I don't care for Pete Holmes. Yeah. And so for that reason, the premise really didn't do it for me.
We don't really get that insight of comedy often in television. A lot of people kind of keep those secrets to themselves and don't like telling others. Or if they do, it's like in some documentary thing 30 years later about like how we conceptualize this. So it was kind of cool to get that breakdown of how the comedy works. Everything else around him is interesting enough, and that is keeping me going.
I feel that's what I liked about the show. That I liked the insider view of the comedy world, and I liked the outlandish characters that he meets, these kind of over-the-top portrayals of TJ Miller and Artie Lange. That I really dug. Because the show is following Pete Holmes and his journey, I didn't care enough about him to continue watching after that third episode.
Comedy comes from going to a dark place. Yeah. Like coming from struggle. And he's never struggled, which is why he kind of wasn't that great of a comedian in the first place. But then him having this issue happen to him, he finally has that material, but he's not good enough yet to be able to use that. And that's what this show is saying. Like, he's finally hit bottom, and all these people are there to, his supporting cast, like the Artie Langes, like the TJ Millers, are there to craft him into what he will eventually become, a okay to fine comedian. Which is why I know for the first 3 episodes we don't see that, but I feel if you're doing a 5-season arc type thing, throwing it out there, eventually he will get better.
I'm so sick of having lived this poor artist lifestyle myself for like 10 years. I'm very tired of the romanticizing of what it is to be an artist. You see it in Girls with Hannah. You see it in La La Land. That's what the entirety of that movie is two aspiring artists being like, I'm poor. Like, I'm just sick of that. And while I think the homage to comedy and the world of comedy is really cool, and I do love like the nitty gritty aspect that he has put out there, the way that his character is traveling in that world for me is so frustrating because I don't like him. I don't like him. I don't like how he's navigating this scene. I think it's stupid. And if I met a person like that in real life, I'd be like, you can go away. I don't want to associate with you.
And also I feel like it's belittling the work that like real people who want to be comedians and work hard to do it.
Yes.
Go for it, because you're supposed to support this guy in his journey to learning about it. When there's and you like you do feel bad. Like by the part of it, I was like, oh God, I kind of feel bad for him, but I really hate myself for feeling bad for him, because there's people who work hard and do it better, and
they don't have this kind of experience.
And yet we're going to support the guy who has this entitled opinion about what comedy is.
Overall, would you recommend this show to people?
No, I think there are better shows. I would say if you want to watch a show about a creative person trying to make things happen and a person who you should actually root for, you should watch Insecure on HBO by Issa Rae.
The reason that works is somebody who is working really hard and doesn't have support. And that's what's great about that show.
And gets in her own way. She's kind of self-destructive. Her friend is kind of self-destructive. That's a more interesting narrative and story to me, and a more relatable story than this story. Pete Holmes, I don't think does anything original, doesn't add anything new to this narrative, except for this aspect of what a nitty-gritty cool world comedy is.
I'm going to say yes, because even though I didn't like it, I think a comedy fan would enjoy it. And I think a comedy fan who knows who Artie Lange is and knows about TJ Miller and understands that world would get a real kick out of, like, seeing those characters, like, so pushed beyond, like, the stereotype of who they are.
I'm going to recommend it for people as well. And to back up what you were saying, I think that it is such a cool thing for people to kind of get an insight on comedy. Like, you don't usually see that. It actually got renewed for a second season already. And so,
seriously?
Yeah. And so
God,
people
HBO
like
doesn't
it.
mess around.
And I was like, they like, apparently people like it. And that's it for the 3 of Crashing. If you guys have watched it and whether you like it or not, make sure you let us know in the comments below. Along with that, if you're new to Telemazing, thank you for checking us out. We have videos every Tuesday and Thursday. We have articles that go up on the website on Wednesdays, and we also have a podcast every Monday. So make sure you subscribe so you can get all of our awesome content every week. Otherwise than that, this is Melissa, this is Josephina, I'm just Wamba. Thank you for watching, and go watch some TV.